Welcome back to Where Swans Walk. It's the fastest and only magazine show which covers all Swansea content. And of course, we're starting this week off with a flyer. We're reviewing, if we can, it won't take long, that Middlesbrough game. Welcome to Where Swans Walk. You're going to hit the subscribe button. We'll roll the titles. We'll get some very unhappy Swansea fans on your screen very shortly. Okay, first game. Let's get it over and done with, and then we'll park it. Welcome back to Where Swans Walk. James, Rich, and Hugh, and our extra special guest joining our team this week is James number 2. Welcome, James number 2.
Thank you.
Jimmy, if you call yourself Jimmy just for 20 minutes, that would be great. All right, then, Rich. Let's start with you, shall we? Where did that all go wrong?
Well, it didn't start great. Let's be fair, and I think it got worse as it went on. Second half was a bit better, but God, you got to start games better than that. We didn't. The manager came out before the game saying, "I want to play on the front foot, want to control possession, give them a bit of shock." The only shock was it took 20 odd minutes to go behind. We could have been about 3 down by then. So abysmal performance, same as last year at Middlesbrough. Terrible start. Things need to change.
James, the Middlesbrough fans. A little bit worried for Swansea. Thought one of the poorest sides they've seen there since you last came. I think was the words that they used. Was it a surprise how bad you were, especially for the first sort of 65 minutes? Did you see that coming in pre-season at all?
No, if I'm being really honest, because I went to the Rio Ave game just before the season kicked off, and there was bags of energy. We looked like we were really looking to go and press teams and actually try to impose ourselves on them. So for us to come out and be so timid and, I'll be really honest, cowardly up there was really surprising. And I know Williams talks about, I won't accept people saying there's no fight and no effort, but for about 60 minutes of that game, that's exactly what we had. There was no fight, no effort, bar possibly Omji Sung and Franco. It was diabolical. Carbon copy of last season's performance against Boro.
Okay. Hugh, were there any positives for you? I mean, the reports, obviously, you've watched the game, I haven't, but the report said when the substitutions did come on, when Ronaldo came on, that actually you started to have a go for a bit, and the Boro fans did say, you could have squeaked one in.
Yeah, I think we were fortunate to be in a position to potentially get a draw at one point, having probably should have been 3 or 4 down at half time, like the boys have said. But I thought when Ronald came on, he looked decent. I think he nutmegged 2 players inside about 5 seconds, and he looked positive and direct, which is exactly what we needed from a winger. But other than that, there's very little positives to take from that, I think.
Okay. James, was it a penalty?
Yeah, I think, people will go on about it and say maybe not, maybe it was, but there's no need to make that challenge in the first place in the box. It's quite early in the game. I don't think Jones was going anywhere with the chance. I don't think he scores from that if he doesn't take him down. So I think it's a bit silly really to be diving in like that and give the referee the decision to make. It might have been a bit soft, but I think you just don't do them things in the box. And, maybe showed Abdullah being a bit naive for his age, maybe.
I've been a bit puzzled with the reaction to this one. I don't think it's been an overreaction on Twitter, but there has been a lot of anger, I think, from fans. Here we go again, same old Swansea. Where is the mood at? I mean, it was all quite happy and positive when we last spoke. But I'm asking to any of you, do you think the Swansea fans, expectations have been raised to a point where perhaps they just need to bring them back down again and quickly?
I don't know, really. I think it's the case of if we can get a few players to meet the squad, if we can get about 20 odd players in a decent squad, we've got a chance because we've got a nice base to play with. But at the moment, we're so few and far between. If we lose 1 or 2 of our key players, like Ronaldo wasn't fit enough to start on the weekend, then you're fitting in square pegs and round holes. Abdullah, he's not a winger on the right-hand side. And you just don't get the best out of the formation. And I think the 3 guys played quite deep in midfield. You need 2 quick wingers if you're going to do that. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and the end of the window. It's about 3 weeks ago. And I think half a dozen names, never mind 4 that Williams was on about last week. We need definitely to improve on that statistic.
Okay. James Warren, the starting 11 against Preston then, what changes does he need to make against the 11 that started against Boro?
I'd say for starters, he needs to make sure that he doesn't try to play Fulton as an 8. Again, we had Matt Grimes dropping extremely deep between our centre-backs, playing as like a 6. And then we had Fulton in front of him, who just could not pick a pass for love nor money. So I think that has to change for starters. And I think maybe if Ronaldo's fit to start them out wide, like Richard was saying, if we've got 2 deep lying midfielders, we need out and out pace on the wings. And unfortunately for Abdoulaye, that's not his forte. I'd maybe consider dropping Fulton, putting Abdoulaye in that midfield as a deep lying midfielder, and perhaps giving Franco the license to get further forward as the 8.
Okay. Hugh, you might have watched Preston on Friday, I'm not sure, but they were abysmal. So you might have thought them coming to you this weekend was good, but they've just gone and sacked Ryan Lowe today. This always seems to happen to Swansea, doesn't it? That just before you play a team, they sort all their issues out. Would you take a draw from this, or does this have to be 3 points?
Difficult one. Early in the season, I think getting points on the board's always important. If they hadn't sacked him, maybe I'd be feeling that we need to get the 3, but now they've got a new manager bounce, as you've mentioned, always happens to us. I think I'd probably settle for a point and see how we play it on Saturday.
Okay. James, the positives from Boro were that it was only 1 from a defensive point of view. Were you impressed with the shutouts that happened, given that you did keep the scoreline down?
No, not really, to be honest. I thought Cabango especially had probably one of the worst games I've ever seen him have in a Swansea shirt, consistently getting beaten by Elath and any other wingers consistently. I think, some of the players were okay, but Timon, again, was really poor for his standards. Darlin was okay as well, and same with, Josh Key didn't exactly do much, but I think defensively it was a pretty rough game to watch. We probably should have been about 3 or 4-0 down.
Okay. Oh, this optimism we had last week in the room is quickly faded. Let's pick it back up again. Here's some takes from the world of Swansea Twitter that I want to cast your eye over and get your view on. Rich, I'll come to you for the first one. This is from Daniel. They got what they deserved. The best of the last 15, but defensively a shambles. Cullen, Cabango, Fulton cannot be starting games if they want any hope of a top 10 finish. EOM and Franco are absolute class. Lots to unpick there. Can you get on board with all of that, or half of it, or none of it?
Slightly harsh, because you got 3 mainstays there in Cabango, Fulton, Cullen, really homegrown Cullen. I don't think Cullen's going to get you 20 goals a season. I think that's the first issue there. So if you are getting chances, he ain't putting them away all the time. I think the new striker we brought in, that was a lot of pressure on him to really start putting the ball in the back of the net. When he does get fit, he's not quite there yet. We need somebody else in to help as well, I would feel. Fulton will have a job to do. He does, he's a workman. He will get plenty of game time, and we are going to need him away from home in certain games, but not going forward. He needs to be the holder of the lot there. And if anything, I think Grimes needs to have more license. He's shown he can score goals over the years. I think just push him a bit more forward, supporting Franco, and we all know Franco can sort of have a good shot off him. So Cabango had an off day. I'd like to think that he's decent enough to be starting. We do need another centre half, yes, to compete. Maybe that'll push them on, the 2 of them, Darlin and Cabango. And the 2 new guys that you're talking about, Ohm and Franco, I already mentioned. Ohm was brilliant. Yeah, you can see a lot of potential there. And Williams was talking in his presser last week that he sees him more in the middle rather than wide. So I think once we get a couple of wide players in, the team will look a lot different than it does now. And I think Williams is an attack-minded coach. He likes to go out and score goals, win games that way. You're not going to get too many clean sheets, I don't think, that in this Swansea team. So I think this season, plenty to work with, but don't quite agree with that totally.
Okay, cheers, Rich. It was very hard to find a positive one, but this one was as close as it Closest it got Hugh. Ellis says, not all doom and gloom. They're a good side. They beat us with a controversial pen. No goals from open play. Signings look good, and it's the first game. We looked threatening second half, just lacking service, time and an off day, and chasing the game. You happy with that?
I think he's looking for the positives there, definitely. I think it could have been a lot worse. As the boys already mentioned, we probably should have been 3 or 4 down. We were lucky not to be honest with you. So I think he's probably a half full kind of person there. But going back on the first tweet, Richard's bang on. I think a couple of the new boys look good. I don't think we can play Fulton, Grimes, and Franco in the same team. It doesn't work. And I think for me, Fulton's a squad player. I appreciate his service to the club, but for me, he can't be started. He's not good enough anymore.
Okay. All right, then. We'll move on from the Middlesbrough game. I want to ask you each week about your squad. We'll go through each position week by week and ask you where it's at. We're starting, of course, with goalkeepers this week. James, where do you think we're at in terms of strength and depth with the goalkeepers? We've talked about signings needed. Is it fair comment that Swansea have got this area sorted? I mean, we know Andy Fisher's still injured, isn't he? But are you happy with where we're at?
I would probably say no, if I'm being honest. Lawrence Vigouroux, if you look at his stats when he was in League One, he had like a 75% save rate. However, he hasn't played consistent football for over 2 years. Distribution-wise, he's meant to be really good. He had a couple of hairy moments at the moment, but I don't know. I feel like we need to have somebody else. Obviously, Andy Fisher at the moment is injured. I think we need to bring another keeper in. Again, if Lawrence Vigouroux doesn't stand up to the test that's in front of him, then we've only got Nathan Broom that we can fall back on. And I'd like to see someone there, perhaps a little bit more experienced, that we can fall back. It happened in Russell Martin's last season. We ended up losing Stephen Bender, and Fisher went through a terrible run of form, and we had literally no one to fall back on. So it's definitely an area that we need to improve in.
Okay. James, too, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vigouroux obviously was brought in to be number one, and again, he was a bit shaky in the first game, but you can probably accept that after not playing football for a year. He's going to take a while, I think, to get properly into the team, but I think he does look like a great keeper, and when he does, he'll be okay. But I think with Fisher's injury now, especially, I know Luke Williams said he's looking potentially to sign another goalkeeper. Obviously, Nathan Broom's never played this level ever, and I don't think you can rely on him to be a backup keeper at this level. So I think, depending on the severity of Fisher's injury, you probably want to get another keeper in. If he's back soon, then maybe you could say it's okay. But I think we've all seen Fisher. He has his moments, and it can be quite bad at times especially it's a run of form where he's really poor. So I think it's a risky decision to just leave it to them to, I think, maybe get another just to make sure, there's no harm in bringing in an extra backup keeper, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. Central defenders next week. That'll be a more interesting discussion to get your teeth into. All right, cheers for that. And of course, next week we'll be joined by a Cardiff fan because, of course, once you've done and dusted with Gillingham and once you've dusted off Preston, then our focus turns to the South Wales derby, which is always a tasty one. On that, Hugh, what's the biggest derby, genuinely, without your Swansea glasses on, what's the biggest derby in the league this season? Because we've actually got a few meaty ones this season.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, the Sheffield derby's back this year as well, isn't it? I think that might be tasty. But yeah, I mean, even without being biased, it's got to be ours number one. But yeah, there's definitely a few up there this year that look like they'd be entertaining. Yeah,
they've already talked about their record at Swansea, and this is the year they're going to do the double. So we'll have that. We'll have that debate with them next week on this channel. We mentioned Gillingham there. A Carabao Cup, Rich, is back this week. Could you care less about it?
Well, at the moment, it's a game you don't really want with our threadbare side. So I really don't know what kind of team's going to come out there. The under-21s played today, and I'll have to have a proper little look through who played in that one and who didn't. But I would expect to see a lot of people from those age grade sides playing and people just building their fitness. So I think they may give Vipotnik a go from the start. I would have thought up front and maybe give him a half, 60 minutes max. I don't think we'd be seeing someone like Ronaldo or anything like that. I think he'd be wrapped in cotton wool. I think Ollie Cooper, perhaps, he didn't have many minutes on the weekend. So a couple of the guys there, but I would expect a lot of changes. And unfortunately, that's doing that. You may well go out the cup, but that's c'est la vie if you're going to get 3 points in the weekend. It's all about that.
Yeah. James, your view on it? Would you, if I could give you the cup now, obviously you've had relatively recent success in it compared to some other big teams. But if I could give you the cup now or promotion, I'm guessing you're choosing promotion.
Yeah, I'd choose promotion there, 100%. Again, we're treading water in the championship, so that would be ideal. But I think tomorrow will be a good test to put people like Philip Lisser in, Nathan Chua on, give them minutes. I'm not really that fussed if we go out.
Okay, Hugh. Even if the final was against Cardiff and you beat them 6-0 at Wembley and you're in Europe, you still take promotion?
Yeah, 100%. I was there when we won it last time. It was a great day, but promotion all the way. And I think Luke's come out today and said he's going to pick a team that's not going to get embarrassed. Hopefully, he doesn't want to go out in the first rounds. We'll see.
Fair enough. Full set for you then, James, too, yeah? Promotion over cup?
Yeah, I think, we all love the Cup in 2013, but with how long we've been stuck in this league, I think I take anything at this point to get out of it. And hopefully when we do get out of it, it's going up and not down. But after last season, God knows what could happen with us.
Okay. I just want to ask you about Boro, because they're an anomaly to me in terms of predictions. From what you saw of them, Rich, do you have them up there for promotion with you guys or not?
Well, Boro, yeah, I think... Last week, I think we were sort of chatting about Boro's being a bit of a dark horse, and I still think they've got good firepower. On the day, they didn't convert that many chances, but I think they'll be there. There's a load of big teams there as well with strong squads. So I think those who invest a bit more between now and the end of the window will push on, but they'll definitely be there and thereabouts to playoffs, I would expect.
Okay, great. Thanks all for joining us. Well, I hope you'll all join us next week to preview the South Wales Derby, talk about central defenders, and hopefully talk about the 3 points you've collected against an out-of-sorts Preston side at the weekend. Enjoy the game, fellas. Thanks for joining us. And if you're a Swansea fan, please do subscribe. Comment below in relation to what you think Swansea absolutely need and what the scoreline is going to be against Preston. Thank you, James, times 2. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Hugh. See you next week.